Here's up guys, MugenLord here, and today I am back with another video, and I just want to apologize to you guys for my absence because my RTX 2080 had finally went out after all these years of having it, and this happened last week, so I had to upgrade to a RTX 3080, and now that it's finally here, it came in last night, and I got everything all established and set up. And plus I had other father duties. My daughter's going back to school and everything, so I had to get school supplies and many other stuff situated, so I just didn't have time to be able to make any videos. So I know I am late to the party when it comes to the recent Nintendo Direct. I guess you would say that happened last week with Kirby Air Riders, or by the time you see this video, 2 weeks ago, Kirby Air Riders was announced by Masahiro Sakurai and Nintendo themselves, which is coming to the Nintendo Switch 2, and I want to give you my thoughts and opinions on it, because I have to say this. I was never really interested in Kirby Air Riders. My sister had it for the Nintendo GameCube back in the day, about like 12 or 13 years ago, and it just didn't click with me. But I will say that Masahiro Sakurai is, once again, one hell of a pitch guy. Like this guy can pitch you a game that you have no interest in, and then somehow you're now buying the game. And I think he did a masterful job when it comes to convincing me to give Kirby Air Riders another chance with this new sequel for Nintendo Switch 2. So before we even dive into this video, make sure you hit the subscribe button and notification bell for more gaming content here on this channel. So we're going to dive into it right now. Now, just to give you a brief history of my relationship with Kirby Air Riders back during the Nintendo GameCube era. I know it's been so long since we have ever seen a new Kirby Air Riders game. That's about 12 or 13 years ago. Now, what makes things interesting when it comes to me and my family, we all get our own individual consoles. Our parents buy our consoles individually, so we don't really share any of our consoles. We have our own consoles. So when it came to Nintendo GameCube, I was the first to get my GameCube, followed by my brother Kyo, and then my younger sister Maya, which she had her GameCube. And what's so interesting is it shows our libraries are completely different based on our taste. And my sister had got Kirby Air Riders. Now the thing was, I wanted to get Kirby Air Riders at the time, but there were so many other games that I had interest in, like Star Fox Dinosaur Planet, Phantasy Star Online Episode 1 and 2, and then of course Metroid Prime, and many other games that were coming out or in the near future that I was looking forward to. So Kirby Air Riders was just not on my radar. But once my sister got the game, I wanted to give it a try. Now, I didn't jump into any tutorials because I assumed that it plays like any other traditional racing game, especially when it comes to Nintendo. And boy, was I wrong. Jumped into the game, and it was just weird how to control your machines and control Kirby as you ride on these tracks. And it just didn't make sense. I'm holding down the A button, thinking it's going to give me some acceleration, and I was just crashing around all over the place. And it was just, the controls just felt so weird to me. It felt so obscure. So I was like, you know what? This just isn't for me. Now, I know there's ignorance on my part, but it just didn't grab me. And then also the fact is that there weren't really variety of different riders. At the time, it was just Kirby, and you also had Meta Knight and also King Dedede, and that was it. And there was no variety in riders. So that was another thing that really turned me off from the game. Now we fast forward, and we look at the Nintendo Switch 2 Nintendo Direct, and when they first announced the console, or to reveal the console, they announced that, yes, we are doing a sequel to when it comes to Kirby Air Riders. And I was like, wow, after all these years, they finally decided to give it a try. So I know, and I said to myself that Masahiro Sakurai definitely had to have something to do with this, because I think the only person who would want to have this game to come back would be Masahiro Sakurai. I mean, Kirby is his baby. But after the Direct, or during the Direct, he did explain that it was HAL Laboratory and, you know, other executives that came from Nintendo that really came to him about wanting to bring back another Kirby Air Riders. But at the time, he was working on Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. And that was another thing that people were really wondering about when they announced the next Nintendo console and revealed the Nintendo Switch 2. People were wondering, what is Masahiro Sakurai going to do? Will we see a new Smash Bros. Game, which we'll definitely be talking about in a separate video, whether or not we'll be seeing a new Smash Brothers game this generation of Nintendo Switch 2, or maybe later on. We'll definitely talk about that. But we finally got a confirmation that Kirby Air Riders was in fact the game that he was working on. So I know some people may be divided. Some people would much rather have a new Smash game from Masahiro Sakurai, and some people want to see what other games that he would like to develop. And it was Kirby Air Riders. So I didn't know what to say when I first seen it, but I was like, you know what? Fans of this series is really, really excited and hyped for this. And I was like, kudos to the fans who's been waiting for it, because Kirby Air Riders is such a niche game, and it has such a cult following and an audience. You know, I didn't think that we'll ever see one ever again, but yes, it's finally here. And was saying to myself that, hey, let's see what it's all about after they made the announcement that it would have its own individual direct. So when I see the direct, it felt like I'm back at home, because Masahiro Sakurai, his just on stage presence just brings a lot of energy, brings a lot of excitement, and it brings us back to those moments of Super Smash Bros. Directs that you always look forward to. But now it's with Kirby Air Riders, and it still gave me that same feel, which for one, that is a good sign. So as he went to go explain the game, I would admit that Kirby Air Riders looks amazing. And I think that's the thing that really caught me by surprise, or really drew me in, was the arcadey look that it has. And in fact, when it comes to the stages, the level designs, it looks much more risk-taking and daring compared to what we got with what we have with Mario Kart Worlds for Nintendo Switch 2 as its launch titles. So the thing about Sakurai, he already knew that people's going to have the question is, how would this game separate itself from Mario Kart Worlds? Is this just a Mario Kart game just with Kirby specific characters, or will this be a completely different game? And having Sakurai on board, you knew that you're going to get a unique experience. So he already addressed it out the gate, and he says, yes, a lot of you guys already assuming that, hey, this Mario Kart but with Kirby characters, but it's far from the truth. This game plays much more differently from Mario Kart Worlds or any other Mario Kart games within the franchises. And what I like about Sakurai, he always brings his own twist, his own flavor to whatever game he touches. And when it comes to racing games, that's no different, because you can see Super Smash Bros. DNA all in Kirby Air Riders, especially with this new iteration. This game feels and look more like a fighting game, but in the form of a racing game, and we'll get into that in a second. But what distinguishes and separates this game from Mario Kart is how the game controls. For all the newcomers who are curious about Kirby Air Riders, this game plays nothing like Mario Kart, and we'll get into it as far as the controls. For starter, the game plays itself, and what do I mean by that? Well, when it comes to the controls, Kirby and all the other riders, when they're on their machines, the machine accelerates on its own. So you don't have to worry about holding the acceleration button like the A button or anything like that. It accelerates on its own. But where the strategy comes in is that how do you maintain your acceleration, or how to increase your acceleration throughout the entire race itself. So what happens is while your car is, or your machine is accelerating on its own, all you have to focus on is clicking left and right on the stick, which is to tilt your character left and right. But you have to press the B button. The B button allows you to boost. Boosting is very important in this game, because this is what gives you, this is where the depth come in, this is where the mechanics really start to show it and shine for itself, and it distinguishes itself from Mario Kart, because boosting is very important in this game, because that determines how much you accelerate and how fast you go and how to maintain that. While you're pressing the B button, it determines on how hard you press the B button, because the longer you hold it, the longer you charge, and it gives you that boost. And it's also a form of drifting. So while you're tilting left and right on sharp turns, you press down on the B button and determine how much you press down on the B button and how much you will gather your charge. So when you're coming from a sharp turn, you let go of the boost button and it boosts you even farther. So this is where the strategy comes in. So what about pressing up and down on the stick? This is where I made my mistake on the GameCube version, because I'm pressing up and down. I'm like, what's going on? I'm crashing my car is slowing down. What is going on here? The only time you really have to tap up and down on the stick is when you're in your gliding type of positioning. When you're up in the air and you're gliding, that's to tilt your machine up and down, how you control the speed and the trajectory of your machines. And that's the only time you press that. But that's where the strategy come in. And then, like any other typical Kirby game, you also have your Kirby critters that walks around on the level. Same thing when it comes to the tracks. You have Kirby enemies on the track where you are allowed to able to absorb them. When you absorb them, you also get copy abilities. And this time, every character has their own version of copy abilities. And Sakurai said, yes, we're breaking Kirby lore here. I don't care. I'm breaking it because we need to make this game much more expansive, more fun, and it will be pretty much broken if Kirby is the only one that's able to absorb to get other abilities. So this is where the strategy comes in, because when you absorb different enemies, you get different hats and you get different attacks. So while you're on the track, depending on how close you are with your opponent, you can actually attack them, which also affects their vehicle, and sometimes depending on the mechanics, their machine can actually break. So which is also pretty awesome. And also if you get close to certain enemies, you can also attack the enemies as well. So there's a lot of strategies. By absorbing them, you can hold on to them and use them much later to attack the enemy. And some of these hats and copy abilities also increases your speed. Now, just like I said when I said it's like a fighting game, is because when you're going back and forth with your opponent on the track, you're able to attack them. You can also be able to go behind your enemy and collect the star drifts behind them so it can fill up your super meter. Yes, there's a super meter in this game, and by pressing the Y button, you can use that meter to perform your special ability. And these special abilities is also tailored to the character that you have. So they all have their own unique abilities, which I also think is cool. And when you use these special abilities, it can also be used as a way to boost farther within the track itself. So there's a whole lot of mind games while you're racing, and there's only 6 racers on the track at a time. I know some people saying that's kind of low for a game like this, but Sakurai says something that makes sense. You know, they tried how many players that they wanted to try and the maximum number, and they realized how chaotic it is. And for this game to be a strategic racing game rather than your traditional Mario Kart game, this game, like I said, it's like a fighting game. So to have above 6 players, or have 12 or 18, or I wouldn't say 18, but I would say like 24 players like Mario Kart World, this would cause a lot of chaos and it would cause more confusion more than anything. So to pretty much have much more of a streamline, to have that strategic competitive type of competition on the race, to mellow it down to 6 players, and especially seeing how fast these tracks are and how the camera constantly moves, I think it is a safer bet to stick with the 6 racers on the track at a time, which is also pretty awesome. Now, what makes this even more different from Mario Kart World, and also what stands this out compared to the previous game 13 years ago with the original on the GameCube, is that now you're not just boiled down to just Kirby, King Dedede, and Meta Knight. Now they introduce more riders, and now you have more variety, and each rider also have their own mechanics or their own specialty that is tailored to their traits, which is also pretty cool. And this is where the depths come in, because depending on the weight of the rider, you can put your rider also on different machines. And even though you may pick the same machine, but if you pick a different rider, each machine acts differently depending on the rider that you select. And it also changes the size of the machine depending on the size of the rider. So there's a lot of stats, a lot of mechanics that you have to keep in mind, and you also have to keep in mind which machine also fits the rider much better and suits their driving experience. So you can pretty much customize the experience that you want when it comes to riding the different machines. Now, what also stands us apart from the original as well is that now you have different classes of different machines that you can be able to ride. They add the chariots to it and many other type of rides. So now you just have a variety that you can pick from, compared to, I believe, the 8 original riders, machines that you had in the original game. Now you also have different classes of machines that also has different mechanics to them. So whatever fits your perfect, or fits the needs or the gameplay style of your choosing, it definitely will bring more depth. So now you have to keep in mind the rider, and you also got to keep in mind the type of machine that you put your rider on, which I think is also pretty awesome. And Sakurai showed the game in action of him giving you a 1-lap race to show you how the game moves. And that Coastal Dreams stage looks awesome, and like I said, it has that arcade feel. I'm more into the arcade experience, the arcade feel, that rush, that adrenaline rush when you're racing on the track, and the effects, and to get you really pumped up on racing. And it really did accomplish that. And seeing that Coastal Dreams track, it looks insane, and it's very cinematic. And as you go to the different parts of the stage that Sakurai was displaying here, and he was not wrong about the chaos behind all this and how the camera does follow behind you, which is also pretty neat. But the thing that really caught my interest, or really drew me into the gameplay and the stages itself, is the music. I think the music is top notch when it comes to Kirby Air Riders. It takes me back to that 90s to early 2000s video game soundtracks that I enjoyed and grown up with. So there's a lot of nostalgia. I got hit with a nostalgia bomb with that, and it also delivers that with Kirby Air Riders in its sequel in a much more modern time and modern generation of gaming, which is also pretty cool. But the feature that people really look forward to is the fact is that City Trial, it has returned, and City Trial has been updated. And as Sakurai said, people weren't playing Kirby Riders for the race itself. People were playing it for the City Trial. And this is where you're going to be spending most of your time. City Trial is pretty much like an open world track, kind of like how you've seen, you know, with Mario Kart World, but this is where it originated from. And you start off with a basic machine, and your goal is to pick up all these different stickers or emblems to customize and boost up specific stats on your ride. Now, the goal is you have 5 minutes to try to collect as many of these power-ups as possible, but you can't just collect any. You have to keep in mind, because sometimes it can affect your steering. Sometimes you don't want your car to be too fast and uncontrollable, so you have to keep those in mind, because after the 5 minutes are up, now you go to the main Coliseum, and the Coliseum randomly generates or randomly picks the available Coliseum. So each Coliseum has different games. You have drag race, you have this arena mode where you're just driving around arena, attacking each other, and based on the stats of your vehicle, that also helps out. Now, the thing that makes this City Trial so unique is the fact is that there are these things called events. And when it comes to events will pop up randomly while you're playing. So sometimes you will have Dynablade pop up, which is one of Kirby's most popular enemies in the Kirby series, or you will have more enemies or spikes that would come down. And so it would change like the outlook or the outcome of the terrain itself, and it can open up special secrets where you can find more power-ups and everything, so you can choose to participate in them. And then they have also derbies, where you can go to these derbies and you don't have to participate in it, but if you need a chance to be able to get that boost for your ride, you can participate in them, and then it would turn the City Trial into an actual track itself that you can race around. Now, for those who didn't participate in it, which I think is pretty cool, you just see a virtual image of the people who are participating in the race, while it doesn't affect you still going around the City Trial itself, collecting the power-ups that you need. So this is where a lot of the racers and a lot of people find the enjoyment of Kirby Air Riders, and they really brought a whole lot more events and a lot more elements to this aspect, which I believe that everybody's going to enjoy. You can constantly move around and everything, and you can attack other riders. You can destroy their ride, and now you have to once you destroy the ride, you have to run around and try to find another ride to be able to pick up and continue on with your progression. So there's a whole lot of content that these had input in this, and it's still not over yet, because they're saying expect another direct or expect more trailers that would go into more detail of other things that they have to show off. And just for it to be 40 minutes, there was a lot to be found here and a lot to break down, analyze, and to speculate, especially if you're a fan of Kirby Riders of the original. There's a lot to digest here, and after the presentation was done, I was sold on it, and because of that, I will be picking up Kirby Air Riders for my Nintendo Switch 2, and I'm definitely looking forward to it. And we're getting a November release, so we're getting around that Black Friday type of spot. So it makes you also wonder, will this be the game that will end off the rest of 2025, or will there be other games to look forward to? So I'm definitely can't wait to try Kirby Air Riders and see what other gameplay mechanics they're going to show off and other riders and machines. But I definitely want to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. What do you think about Kirby Air Riders? Were you a fan of the original? Or if you have never played the original, it is something that you will pick up for your Nintendo Switch 2. Definitely leave your thoughts in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed this video, definitely hit that bell and that subscribe button for more gaming content here on this channel. This is MugenLord signing off. I see you game fiends later. Peace out.